Welcome to this module as part of the Leader as a CI enabler called Strategy Deployment. The structure for this module starts with the introduction on strategy deployment, followed by a high-level process overview, then how to draft and align a team charter, next initiate the strategic projects, and last but not least, manage and review strategy and performance. Let's start with the introduction on strategy deployment. With strategy deployment, we are seeking to make sure that all our teams align with our company goals. Visually, it looks like this, that on the left-hand side, a misaligned organization is not able to drive to its goals. Whereas if we use strategy deployment, we can make sure that all our objectives and goals are aligned with the strategies for the company. That means that alignment is needed and that our plans are to be discussed within the organization. So downstream, so from the top to the bottom, the objectives are communicated to the teams, and each team will then draft their own team charter. They will align their initiatives with what is needed upstream, so by their manager. Before we start talking about strategy, a good strategy has 6 ingredients for success. The first one is, it is clearly defined. The second is, it is legitimate, meaning all important stakeholders support and buy into the strategy. It needs to be feasible, fully aligned, sustainable, so meaning the leadership in the organization drives the strategy and ensures that priorities stay focused. And it needs to be measurable. We need to be able to measure the impact of the strategy and make sure that we continuously can track where are we on our progress. First, let's take a look at the high-level process. The process starts with drafting a team charter. Once the team charter has been initiated, the next step is catchball, basically the alignment up and down into the organization. Once the alignment has been done, we start with the so-called A3 deployment, where the A3 represents how we intend to get to our end goal as we have written in the team charter. Then, the continued monitoring is happening at a monthly basis. Next are the strategy review meetings, where we regularly assess if the direction is still valid and if the projects are progressing the way we intended. Diving into more details on drafting the team charter. The team charter is the first starting point for strategy deployment. The template we use is the one that is shown on this screen, starting with our goal. Basically, what do we want to do as a team? Then our principles. It determines how do we like to work together, and our way ahead. How will we get to our goal? As you can see, this one represents the 4 actionable strategic points, but if your organization has a different structure, make sure you align to that. The first step that you take with your team is to determine what is our goal. Questions to ask the team is, what do you want to be known for, and how do we know we are successful? So make sure that the goal is smart formulated. While drafting your goal, keep in mind that we need to know what is important for our customer. So what is important for your customer? Is the goal aligned with our company goals? And are the goals realistic, measurable, and most of, can we influence it? Once we have the goal described, we go into our principles. Questions to ask your team is, what is important for you, and what are the behaviors we want to be known about? While drafting the principles, keep in mind that the principles align with our core values, and what does your team expect from you as a leader? Now that we have drafted our goal and our principles, we are now stepping into how do we get there. And this will take the majority of your time in the team, as this will be the more detailed discussion on what will your team be focused on in the next 1 or 2 years. So step 1 is a brainstorm on drafting a list of leading initiatives or improvement areas that again should be smart formulated. Then we also want to know what is the target for each improvement area. Once we have done that, we go into step 2, and that is to make sure that we score the improvement areas against our priorities. While drafting the leading initiative, keep the following in mind. What is currently not working that should work? How is this leading initiative different from the others? And how bad would it be if this initiative is not resolved? Some tips: make sure that you do not have too many leading initiatives. So 1 or 2 per person, that should be a good rule of thumb. So if your team has 5 people, then aim to have 5, max 10 leading initiatives. Scoring and selecting the leading initiatives is done using a scoring table. The template is found on the CI portal, but the way it works is we list out all the initiatives on the left-hand side, and then we score them, what kind of impact it has against our strategy. A -1 means a negative impact, and it ranges from a 0 to a 4, of 0 no impact to 4 a high positive impact. This will result into a total score per initiative. The higher the score, the more likely it is something that your team should focus on. However, scoring is just one component. You as a team can still say, okay, based on my gut feeling, how do we prioritize this initiative? And should we reprioritize it? Things that have a very low score should either be removed from the leading initiatives and be moved to next year, or should be reprioritized for later in the year. Once you have done this, you come up with a final team charter. This final team charter should look a little like this. Now that the team charter is drafted, the next step is to do the alignment. The alignment is called catchpole. Why and with whom to align? First off, alignment of your team charter helps to ensure that goals and deliverables are meeting the expectations of the leadership team one level up, so basically your manager, or the customers of your team. In a highly matrixed organization like AkzoNobel, it is likely that you need to align not only with your manager, but also with the customers that you're serving. The aim of the team strategy is to align with what is expected from your manager and your customers. As you can see here, the alignment is about discussing your plans within the organization, where the objectives come from the top and the negotiation and alignment goes bottom up. On the previous slide, we talked about the alignment up and down in the organization. This is called catchpole. Catchpole is a process of agreeing, negotiation, and alignment up and down into the organization. This alignment will be continued until the team charter is approved by the different managers or stakeholders that you're having the alignment with. So now that we've spoken about catchpole, it's good to know that it might flow up and down the organization a couple of times. It's great if we can have a one-time right catchpole process, but expect to spend 2-3 iterations on your team charter before it is finalized. That is part of the negotiation and the alignment that is needed to make sure that we as an organization and as a team are all aligned to the corporate goals. Once the catchpole is done, we can go into drafting the strategic projects. The chosen project approach for solving our strategic projects is the A3 methodology. That training has been provided to you as part of this curriculum. Please review it once more if you feel a need to do so. So why draft a strategic project? The strategic projects will translate the how do we get there to a tangible outcome. For this, we have chosen to use the A3 project methodology, Without going into a lot of detail, the A3 is a structured problem solving on a page. And the A3 derives its name from the size of the paper. It is an easy way to visually communicate data, information, and thinking, and it tells the story of a problem-solving activity. A tip to give is that each strategic initiative might be too big to handle by one person or one team. It is recommended to break it into separate items called an A3 deployment. An example is given here, where you can see that each high-level A3 is split into smaller ones. Another example is given here. Each are unique strategy deployments, and the amount of projects will be determined by the complexity of each higher level A3. So next up is the monthly results assessment, where the chosen tool for this is called a bowling chart. A bowling chart facilitates monthly or other frequency checkpoints that show how good you're doing against the targets. It contains measures and baseline items, and it will help you to understand how are we doing against our plan. The bowling chart is filled out every month, where you start to see slowly but gradually, the more you're working on your initiatives, that at a certain time will get to a green status. The last item in this module is strategy review meetings. These meetings are regular meetings to assess if the chosen direction is to be adjusted and performance is meeting expectations. So what is this for a meeting? The meeting has two purposes. First off, assessing if the chosen goals and initiatives are still valid, which is recommended to do every quarter. This because the organization can have just completely changed around you. The second is, what is the project progress on the strategic initiatives? Either every 2 weeks or every month. We started off with introducing strategy deployment, followed by an overview of the high-level process overview, then how to draft and align your team charter, flowing into how to initiate strategic projects, and last, how to manage and review strategy and performance. The high-level process, it starts with the team charter, followed by the alignment called catchball. Then the leading initiatives are broken into A3 projects, where if the project is too large or too complicated, we see an A3 deployment, where projects are split into smaller chunks. At a monthly basis, we assess the performance of each leading initiative against its target, followed by quarterly strategic review meetings, where we assess if the chosen direction is still valid.